Hi lads and chapettes, this is Staci McClennon of Unity Peace Patrol News. It's the 14th of June, in light of, that was just taken from the film V for Vendetta at the start of the movie, which is a bit, I think of it as a bit of like an army kind of a call, as it were. Don't know what you guys think of that. We've got
yeah, I mean, it's quite a rousing piece of music.
It's like a rising, do you know what I mean? It goes dun 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 dun, and then it just goes up, and it's like the trumpets. It just gives me goosebumps. I've got to admit.
It's like a call to arms, weren't it? A call to arms.
Yeah, because that's what it is. Like, because obviously, in light of the anti-austerity march that's happened on the 20th, you know, we need more people. I mean, there's 60,000 people that on the Facebook event that have said, listen, we're going to be there. But, you know, it's always handy to have extra numbers. You can never have too many people going down to Parliament Square.
Times that by 1,000, that'd be quite good.
Yeah, but unfortunately, you know, I mean, not many people are waking up yet. I mean, there's more and more and more. I mean, we woke a few people up last night. We've got tonight, ladies and gents. We've got Joshua, our comedy cameraman, now that he's now been dubbed. We've got Blackhole Bridger, and of course our human library, which is Michael. So welcome everybody, and thanks ever so much for taking the time out to come on.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And we've also got the corruption watchdogs, and I remember when I was at an eviction not long ago, somebody actually pointed out that he could hear mine and my husband's budgie. So welcome, Corruption Watch Budgie. So he's going to be tweeting away. He's sleeping at the minute, but he was tweeting away before we come on.
So don't bother tweeting, the budgie does it for you.
We're going to dive straight into our little public wake-up call last night. Me and our comedy cameraman went out onto the streets of Kettering and Northamptonshire, which is it was a busy Saturday night. You know, loads of people were about. You know, there was lots of people. We spoke to a couple of taxi drivers. And talked to them about Section 26 of the Criminal Justice and Courts Act. We wanted to raise more public awareness of it, and we got we basically got around to some of the takeaways, but the takeaways were saying, listen, come back when it's quiet. So that was fine. We weren't really too fussed about it. We kept going, we kept marching on. There was a guy in a really, really nice car who literally said, this doesn't affect me because I'm not from round here. Very barish of him, very sheepish of him.
Oh dear.
Yep.
You get them everywhere.
Yeah, unfortunately it does affect him because it doesn't matter where you come from in the UK. Section 26 of the Criminal Justice and Courts Act 2015 applies right across the UK.
Thing was, he was seen getting out of his nice car by police in an undercover van. He was then seen cross the road and walk into a pub.
I don't believe that. I mean, they watched him going into a pub.
Yeah,
He just got out of a motor vehicle. I mean, are they stupid?
Walking into a pub.
And they
Then they also saw him leave the pub and get back in the car as well.
and drive off.
And do nothing about it. Then those officers need reporting.
Well, see, the thing is, I mean, we weren't going to report anything. Do you know what I mean? Because like at the end of the day, you know,
we're trying to fight them, not help them.
Those officers, obviously, if they saw that person walk into a pub and then sometime later come out, then I think even a person with a limited knowledge of the law, especially road traffic law, would come to the conclusion, as would any reasonable person, that there is a possibility that person may have been consuming alcoholic drinks. Now, there's nothing to stop the police officer going up to them and saying, "Excuse me, sir, have you been? I've just seen you come out of the pub." And normally, you can smell it on their breath. Now, if his breath was smelly, they can discourage him from getting in the car and ask him to hand over the keys and collect them from the police station the following day. But if he insists, then yes, there is something they can do. I mean, if you get somebody behind the wheel of a car, of a steering wheel of a car, who's had quite a bit to drink, I mean, that's like putting a loaded gun to somebody's head, and then saying,
trouble, isn't it? And this is why I said, well, that nice car of yours, the police could try and take that off you, and you're not bothered by that. And he went, no. And I was like, well, you will be when you can't use your car to get about anywhere. You know what I mean? And he was just like,
it wasn't a cheap car either. Those cars are worth about £30,000 when they were brand new, and he had done upgrades to it. I'd say it was about.
Oh, it was the engine purred though, didn't it? Purred like a kitten.
Was it a Mercedes-Benz?
No, it was a Toyota Supra. It was a good.
Those are not. Yeah, the Supra isn't a cheap model. It's kind of the same, around about the same price as Subaru Impreza or the Mitsubishi Evo. They're high performance cars. They're not cheap. So yeah, I mean, even the basic model is something like nearly £30,000.
High performance and alcohol don't blend well.
Well, one or two things could have happened to you. You could either have been arrested for attempting to drive a motor vehicle whilst under the influence of alcohol, or he could have ended up wrapped up round a tree or in the mortuary. I mean, if the police just watched him go into the pub, then come out and get in the, I mean, really and truly, that is a serious neglect of duty.
I don't think he was, in my personal opinion, I don't think he was in there long enough to even order a drink. Because it was quite busy, so I could imagine there was more people in the pub than there was outside. So you can imagine there would have been a crowd. So maybe he was just popping in just to see a mate or something. We don't know because we didn't go in the pubs. But I spoke to a police officer. We eventually got round to a police officer, and he had one of these cone hats on. He looked like a bit of a twit, if I'm honest. I got his badge number and everything, and he was like, "I'm not interested in your piece of paper." And I'm like, "Well, this is a law, like, you know, like it's printed from the legislation.gov.uk." And he went, "Well, I'm far too busy to be speaking to you." Tried to be really patronising. So he went up to another two coppers. Well, they approached us. We never approached them. We just said, "Excuse me, hello, have you got a minute?" And that's the only way we approached them. And what happened was these police officers, well, one of them was a sergeant, gave me his contact details, but he was very alarmed that we were filming. And I says, "We can film when we want," but the previous police officer got behind our comedy cameraman and started looking over his shoulder at my mobile phone. And when I asked him what he was doing, I says, 1443, what are you doing? I went, "Sorry a minute." I went, What are you doing?" And he went, "Oh, nothing." And I went, "Well, you're looking over his shoulder. You're in his personal space. Move." And he just looked at me like I'd gone out. And I went, "Look," said to Josh, "just move over. And you can't do anything." And he knows that he can't, but he's being nosy and he's getting in your personal space. Like you touch him or you go near him, I'll have you done for assault. And it's breach of Section 26 that you refuse to take a copy of. And he cacked his pants.
Yes, that doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me at all.
Sergeant tried to say he'd arrest me for Section 5 of the Public Order Act, and when I started reeling off what I knew about it, he went, "Oh, so you know about it?" I went, "Of course I do." I went, "Am I causing you harassment, alarm and distress right now?" He said, "No." I goes, "Well, you can't arrest me then." I goes, "I wouldn't anyway." And he tried to, but he gave me his contact details kindly, and I haven't contacted him yet. But I'm going to forward on my Freedom of Information request to him and see what he thinks of it. Being a frontline sergeant, anyway, it might give him a bit of an interest into. He said, "Well, of course we would know the law." I said, "Oh, really? Well, how come you haven't learned this?" And he said, "Oh, that's misconduct in public office." I goes, "Yeah, it's along them lines, but what I am saying here is that you need to, well, don't you think your chief constable is precariously liable for it? And he said no.
It seems to me, Staci, that our sergeant does not know what he's talking about. I know it doesn't sound very nice, but I'm afraid he doesn't. A chief constable is vicariously liable for the actions of officers below them. If a junior officer messes up and something serious happens, yeah, the buck stops with the person at the top. In a police force, that's the chief constable. Ultimately, the police and crime commissioner for a police area has the sanction of sacking a chief constable if things goes really seriously pear-shaped. I think this is becoming quite a common thing, that police officers are not being trained in Section 26. You phoned it up where you are. I phoned it where I am, down in Devon and Cornwall. I've only spoken to a few down here, and it's alarming that they have not been told about this, about Section 26. I mean, it will change how they do their job. I mean, they've been getting away with it, and I'm afraid they can't anymore. They've got to obey the law, and if they think they can just carry on, the greater managers of the police, you try and tell them, and they don't want to know. Well, I'm sorry, greater managers of the police, if you're listening in, I'm afraid you're going to get a very rude awakening, and when you get that rude awakening, you won't be able to say you weren't told.
Yeah. Is it not incumbent on the chief inspector to make sure all his officers are correctly trained for the job they're doing, like the enforcement of the law, and they should know the law?
It's up to the chief constable of a force, a particular police area, to ensure that officers are trained in all new legislation that would affect the way they carry out their duties. Or it's a duty they are required to discharge. That yes, they would be expected to do that. Unfortunately, you've got ACPO, or as they now call themselves, the National Police Chiefs Council.
Oh yeah.
They're both completely unaccountable to anyone, and they seem to be dictating policing policy. Well, a lot of people are getting very uncomfortable with that, and I wouldn't mind betting there's a number of MPs.
But they believe they're unaccountable. They are accountable. They are our servants.
Well, they are, because it's not because we're paying their wages. It's because they are. Police officers hold. The officer constable is a crown office. It's like a civil servant. It's a crown office. They're a crown servant. They're not a public servant as a refuse collector or a council worker is. They are crown. Police officers and civil servants are crown servants, so they're officers of the crown. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean they're above the law. There are civil servants who seem to think they're above the law. They're not. Nobody's above the law.
Speaking of being above the law, I noticed behind him there was a police van that was parked on double yellows, and there was a police car police wagon or whatever that was actually parked up further along that was blocking access to. They were blocking access to get onto the main road, because it's a one-way system, so nobody could go out another way. It had to be that they came down this road to come out and turn left. And
yeah, I think I saw that on Bambuza last night, Staci, when you were broadcasting a little full transit connect van. Yeah, the rule is with emergency vehicles parking on double yellow lines or where there's parking restrictions, if the vehicle is attending an emergency call, yes, then they can. It's probably lawful for them to do that, but not under those circumstances. And also blocking.
I said to him, I goes, my car's just over there. And he went, which one? I went, I'm not telling you that. I went, PNC it and you'll find out. And I went, right, my car is over there somewhere, not pointing to a specific I said, my car's parked behind that. And I said, so shall I park on a double yellow line? And he went, well, no. And I went, well, so what makes you so different? I went, are you trying to imply that the police are above the law? And he says, what? And I says, well, that's not right. I went, either they move or I will go and park on a double yellow. And he went, well, you'd be breaking the law. I goes, well, so would you. I said, so would your officers in that van there. And I could actually arrest them under 24A apiece. And he went, how did you know that? He was very dumbstruck as to how we knew the law.
Yeah, well, this is the internet for you, and also you can, if you go into any public library, there is a publication called Halsbury's Statutes, which is available at most public reference libraries. That has got just about every piece of statute law you can think of in about something like about 20 odd volumes. Probably the relevant traffic law is there as well.
Yeah, see,
there's also books on traffic law as well, and there's also a series of books called Blackstones. Now, if we've got any Freeman of the Land people listening, that is nothing to do with their Bible, which is called Blacks. Blackstones is one that is made specifically for the police, because it deals with police procedure, police law, and the way the law is should be interpreted correctly. But traffic law, which is the one that deals with road traffic, as its name suggests, that is a completely different area of the law to, say, criminal, civil, or administrative, or bankruptcy or financial law.
See, the way I look at it is, Michael, is that when it seemed very suspicious that when this police van actually, about 5 minutes after I spoke to them, it disappeared.
Yes, I would think that they suddenly realised, yes, we are breaking the law, and yes, we've been owned. The fact that you knew about Section 24A of PACE, I think that might have had something of an influence, and they thought, well, Christ, if she knows that, what else does she know? Let's move it just to be on the safe side.
I would say it motivated them.
It wouldn't surprise me, Paul, because, like I said, police officers are not above the law. The most blatant example I can think of was a sergeant from Greater Manchester Police, and I don't know whether he was on something, but I was listening to a conversation, and he was trying to tell the person, "Oh, hey, you could go. Oh no, we don't have. You have to prove we're wrong. We don't have to prove anything. Oh, and the court in Strasbourg will back us up." And I'm thinking, what's he on? Because I want some as well. But but the man was totally deluded, and I'm not being offensive to that sergeant if he's listening to this. He was deluded in a way that is more synonymous with psychosis. It's either because he's been getting away with it, or being kind of psychologically reframed into thinking, "Oh, you can do no wrong."
Right.
The people have got to prove. I've got to prove it. It doesn't work like that. The court in Strasbourg, the European Court of Human Rights, the plenary court, which is the main court. No, there is an article called Article 46, which doesn't come up in the Human Rights Act because obviously the government don't want us all to know about it. But you can freely download it from the internet, which says that states that have signed the convention, there's 47 of them, including the United Kingdom, are required to abide by judgments of the courts, and that means you also abide by the articles which bestow the rights on individuals. Now, if that sergeant from Greater Manchester Police thinks that the plenary court or the Grand Chamber will find him to have done no wrong, I really think he does need to either wake up and smell the coffee, or book into a psychiatric unit as a voluntary patient, because somebody has been seriously messing with his mind. That's not normal. I'm sorry, but it's not. It's not normal behaviour. And I am aware that there are police officers whose behaviour, even their colleagues and their partners, have noticed it. They're not behaving in what most of us would consider to be normal behaviour. And some have, sadly, some have ended up in psychiatric units with nervous breakdowns, or, and in extreme cases, some of them committed suicide because of obviously.
Or commit murder.
Well, it's caused their mind to break down. As for murder, I think now there was a case that went through. I think they went to the Old Bailey, where a police officer had struck somebody, and in doing so had killed one. And he was either up on a murder or a manslaughter charge. And there's a guy called Dr. Barry Trower, who is a leading expert in microwave science. And one thing they have found with these Tetra radios that the police use is that whenever it transmits or receives, the microwave it gives off, because it uses obviously microwave technology to receive and send the signals, it is creating radiation which can burn, and it can, and they found burn marks where on the spot where the dot, that plastic clip they've got on their stab pads, they found it burn marks. The other thing that's been found is that officers have been developing tumours in their brains where their face or their side of their head is coming into contact with the antenna. But they've also found out that the output from the antenna causes a disruption of the neurotransmitters in the brain. Now, people who are involved in medicine will know what I'm talking about. But basically, neurotransmitters are chemicals within the brain which help the brain to perform its function correctly and also to send signals to different parts of your body. Now, I'm yattering away. Well, there's neurotransmitters going through my nervous system to make me talk and also move my hands about like a madman. But that's neither here nor there. But what it does is it upsets the way that the neurotransmitters work, and it does make people aggressive. And in this particular case, the Dr. Trower mentioned to the defending counsel, he said, look, he said, I can tell you exactly what's caused that, and he put in a paper, and the case was dropped because they realised the police officer obviously could not be held criminally responsible for the death. But the use of the Tetra radio, they still haven't stopped using the Tetra radio. I couldn't understand it when they stopped using VHF and UHF for police communications, because I mean, when I was in the job, we were using VHF and UHF, and it worked perfectly well. The only downside is that people could listen in.
And the UHF, Michael, isn't it more robust than all this new rubbish they come out with?
Well, colour TV, before they went digital, it was using UHF, black and white, because it gives quite a good signal, and it's a stable signal as well.
Yeah.
Whereas digital is less stable. VHF for signal sent over a small area, yes, it is very good. But the trouble is, it can be listened into. It can be monitored. VHF, all you need is a VHF scanner, and you can listen into VHF. I mean, shipping runs on VHF. The International Distress Channel, the Mayday Channel, I forget which channel number it is, but that's VHF. You get shortwave VHF, you get longwave VHF, and there's different wavelengths of VHF. But shipping works on VHF.
So they'd rather throw the robustness of a certain system under the bus just to stop people listening in to them, yet they can listen in to us.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think my own feeling is that the police officers themselves have been misled by their senior officers, and also there are individuals who have deliberately put the UHF and VHF signal spectrums out of the reach of the emergency services for a good reason. So they can't be listened into, but also, I mean, saying that, we need it to send the data and all that. Well, unfortunately, it's so unreliable. I mean, they've had cases. I mean, if you look at your TV, the picture will suddenly freeze. That's because a flipping leaf has fallen off a tree as the signal's coming down to you, and it blocks the signal.
Yeah.
No, I mean, these ANPR systems that the police use, I mean, the databases they work on, I mean, if that is corrupted, I mean, you're going to get somebody going to say, oh, you haven't got any insurance. You can say, yes, I have. Where's your evidence? But, yeah, this is what's going on. But I think those who decided to stop using the VHF and UHF radio spectrums, they've got some very serious questions to answer. Very serious indeed.
It's like this police force in Luton. He died in custody. He's been named.
Yeah, I was looking at that earlier on, Staci.
Tragic.
Yeah, we don't know what's happened on this. I mean, there's a number of possibilities. He may have suffered a heart attack, which was unforeseen. That's one possibility. There's also something called restraint asphyxia, where a lot of people just suddenly piling on top of one person, which restricts their breathing.
Well, he was 25 years old, so a year younger than myself.
Yeah.
And heart attack.
Well, there's two other possibilities.
But entirely possible.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean,
yeah, there's two other possibilities.
Deaths in custody, though, don't we? Like in Greater Manchester.
There's two questions that need to be asked. How was he handled before he got to custody, and how was he handled after he arrived there? This is the question I'm going to ask: did the police do their usual, which is to knee people in the back, or in the middle of the back, or the upper back, or knee them in the chest? Now, if there's any police officer listening who engages in that sort of thing and tells me it's safe, I would suggest that they think of resigning. It is very, very dangerous. That is to the sternum, the breastbone's enough to either crack it or snap it, or it's enough to break a rib. Now, if a rib goes through the myocardium, it can kill you. Now, I know that from personal experience, not to myself, but my father was killed in a road accident in 1987. And that's what happened in his case. He was thrown onto the dashboard of a motorbike, and it cracked one of his ribs, well, broke one of his ribs, and that tore straight into his myocardium, and he bled to death internally. So that's what can happen.
I've just read further down in this. It says, we have unconfirmed report that this gentleman, I can't say his name to save my life, I'm so sorry, died from a heart attack. However, the family have stated there were no previous or pre-existing conditions that could have caused this. There are many unanswered questions, and our experience will continue.
Yes, I think it.
They will, and in our experience, they will continue to be unanswered for a long time to come of it all. It is totally unacceptable that young men are dying in custody on an average of 545 per year, with this gentleman and a guy called Leon Briggs dying in the same police station within 18 months. The reason for the arrest is irrelevant to why this man met his untimely death. No individual should die in custody, and the message is very clear that lessons have been learned.
Yeah, the thing is, what seems to be happening is that the police, employed police staff are being replaced by the likes of G4S and Serco. Now, we don't know what these private firms are doing to people when they're in the custody suite. I'm not having a go at individuals, but something has happened. Because this sort of thing doesn't happen just by waving the magic wand or just happen out of the blue. There's got to be a cause for it. Now, like I said, the way that person was handled by the police officers before he got to custody and after he arrived there, that needs investigating. And any investigation needs to show no mercy. They can cover up as much. I mean, the contractors can cover up as much as they like. It should be a case of, right, you are going to tell me exactly what you did, and I'm not going to take any BS. And if I think you're telling me BS, I'm going to do you for obstruction. This is what you need. You need to be. I'm sorry, but you need to be absolutely ruthless when you're investigating things like that, because you owe it to the person who died, and also to that person's family. And the coroner does need to know how that died. I mean, although it says heart attack, that could have been caused by a number of things. Asphyxiation can cause a heart attack. Ruptured aorta could.
It even says Bedfordshire Police contacted the Independent Police Complaints Commission, IPCC. We have a lot of words that stand for that letter of our own little mockery of it.
No, they have to in a death in custody. It's mandatory.
Yeah, saying following the death of a 25.
If somebody comes into contact with the police, dies as a result of that contact, then the police are legally required to report it to the IPCC.
The IPCC don't seem to have any teeth.
Well, I mean, I heard of one case recently where 2 officers turned up allegedly from the IPCC. It turns out they were serving officers from the same force that was under investigation. My answer to my question is, what the bloody hell is going on?
That should never be so.
It should not. It should be done by an officer from another force, well away from that force area. I mean, when I was a policeman with the Ministry of Defence Police, I was in one area, and if you did something against the conduct regulations, it was an officer from another area who investigated it. I mean, I think we had about 4 or 5 areas.
Yeah.
And yeah, it had to be. I mean, we were in Western area, which covered the whole of the southwest and right up into Buckinghamshire. And then there was an area called Southern area that went across the south coast into London and part of East Anglia. Then they used to come from there and investigate it.
Yeah. The trouble is now, Michael, is they're integrating all the different regions all into one area. And so we're going to end up like in Scotland, where there is just one police force now that covers the whole of Scotland. That means all the checks and balances have gone out the window.
Oh, that was, what's his name, Stephen House. I've got a feeling that certain individuals are not happy bunnies with what's going on up there, and I think I could see things changing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you watch the UK column, I mean, there is certain former procurator fiscal and certain other individuals who have done things which are highly questionable, and now serious questions are being asked of that. And I can also see, I don't know if Stephen House is sorry. I can see serious questions being asked. A decision to merge all these regional police forces in Scotland into one police force. That does need to be questioned. If it was an ACO decision, then it should be. Yeah.
I know I'm asking the question, but I'm a nobody asking. There should be more people in the authorities asking what the reason of this is being done for, when all the checks and balances are going out the window with it.
Yeah, I quite agree with you, Paul.
Now, here's an article that I found just on the off cuff, really. Tasers drawn on 400 children in 2013. Sorry for my language here, but what the actual fuck?
Yeah.
Well, this sounds a lot like common purpose training to me. Who would rightly draw a weapon, which a taser is a weapon, on a child?
Here's what it says here. It says more than 400 children have had tasers drawn on them by police in England and Wales. In 2013, figures obtained by the BBC show. Right, well, the BBC probably have a lower amount than that and haven't probably done their research, or they've decided to lower it down. Right?
Decided to hide numbers to make them look better.
Yeah, exactly, as the comedy cameraman says. And the Home Office taser database, seen by Radio 5 Live, BBC Radio 5 Live, shows a 38% increase in 2012 in the number of children who had a taser aimed at them. Tasers were fired 37 times at 10 to 17-year-olds. Whoa! What the actual hell?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at that graph that's coming up for the screen. Yeah, I mean, that is disturbing.
It is, and see, the thing is, the Home Office said Theresa May had asked for a review of their usage. The figures obtained through a Freedom of Information request showed that the youngest person to have a taser aimed at them was 11. That's quite frightening. Do you know what I mean? The scariest thing I had when I was 11 was boys and cooties, I think.
It says that the youngest firearm was 14.
Yeah.
I mean, these tasers are come under Section 5 of the 1968 Firearms Act.
Mm-hmm.
They're classed as firearms, and they are dangerous. Now, when these first came into being, they were only issued to officers who were authorised shots. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the term authorised shot, it means they're firearms officers. They're ones who are trained to use firearms. The checks that are done on these officers are very, very strict indeed. They are assessed every 6 months. That's their ability to handle a firearm, and it's not just a handgun like a Glock, it's also handling other guns as well. The main one that the police seem to use is the Hecker & Koch MP5 or MP3. The Ministry of Defence Police, which I belong to towards the end of my career, they use a more modern version, which is the MP7. And that's public knowledge. But they have to be assessed to make sure they can handle those, because if you can't handle one of those, you could kill somebody with it inadvertently.
I mean, a 14-year-old, do you know what I mean? With having a few, I don't know how many volts it is.
50,000 volts, I could kill them at that age. It could kill anybody at any age. The other thing that they have discovered is that when the voltage from these things causes the white blood cell count to almost double every time that trigger is pulled. Now, I'll just go back to the firearms officers. They're also psychologically assessed to see whether or not they should be allowed to continue to be allowed to carry a firearm. And if they fail that psychological assessment, that's it. They are taken off firearms. Their permit to carry a firearm is revoked. That's how strict it is. Unfortunately, you've got officers walking around with these, they look like toy guns with an electric shock device in them. And to my mind, they are misusing them. They are not using them for what they were intended, which is if you're faced with somebody with a gun or a weapon of offence, to stop that person hurting you or hurting other people. That's what they're supposed to be used for, but they're not. They're using them as instruments of compliance and intimidation.
Yeah.
There was one on, I think it was Night Cops on TV one night. And there was a gentleman called a police officer. There was a guy, he was drunk, he wasn't violent, he wasn't aggressive, he wasn't even all over the place. And he was threatening to taser him, and there was no need for it. And I wouldn't be surprised if that officer, after the filming was done and it went out, the chief constable called him and said, "What bloody hell did you think you were doing?" Anybody who pulls out a taser and starts threatening somebody with it has either got a serious psychological problem, or they're psychotic or psychopathic.
Yeah.
I'm really interested. They should have their authorization to carry that taser revoked.
Yeah, I think that should go for every officer that pulls it on a child, unless of course the child has got a baseball bat and is going to use that against the officer. I can see why they're pulling it. But to put it at most children, that they obviously need a reassessment, psychological reassessment.
I'd be interested to know if that is actually done, Paul, because if officers being issued, I mean, this is frontline officers, if they're being issued with tasers and they're not being psychologically assessed, then ACPO or MPCC, I think it's time to say, right, sorry, you are not making policing policy anymore. You've shown you can't be trusted. It's now down to the people in collaboration and consultation with the Policing Crime Commissioner. If you don't like it, it's quite simple. Put in your resignation, and we'll get somebody else to do the job who will.
I think this calls for an FOI, don't you?
Definitely.
Well, it's not justified, but I think I've got a few questions. I think I'm going to periodically annoy Northamptonshire Police, I think.
Just apply to Northamptonshire Police, Stacey. This applies to all police forces.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Tasers. I know my old force. They carry firearms because of where they are. I mean, some of the places where they patrol. What's kept there in some of these places, if if somebody with an intent got in there, they could kill a lot of people if they got hold of the material that's there. So, yes, having a loaded pistol or a Hectoring cock, and you've got somebody trying to get in there and get hold of some certain material to make a bomb with, a certain explosive material, taking that person out to save, say, a population the size of Plymouth, which is about 260,000, yeah, sometimes you've got to.
Yeah, that's totally understandable in them.
That's right, and this is why the MOD police carry firearms. They carry loads of firearms when on duty. It's especially when they're at places where there's certain types of material capped. It's for a reason, and it is to protect the public. I mean, yes, somebody might get in, they just might wander in. The police will give you a warning. They'll shout at them and say, "Stop, stand still." They'll walk over to you and say, "What are you doing?" And if you say, "Oh well, I've just wandered here by accident," they'll say, "Right, we'll get your ass out of here now." But if you don't, then they will start going through the rule of engagement, and there are certain things they've got to shout at the person before they can open fire on them.
It's just shocking. See, I looked at that advert, and the oldest person to have one pointed at them was 85, and the oldest person actually fired at was 82.
Yeah, this is why that they need to take the tasers away from them.
Yeah, so the Home Office has not released taser statistics broken down by age before, and warned that they are not wholly reliable because the age figures may be police estimates. Tasers fired that, like electrodes into a person's body, are used to incapacitate suspect. At 82 years old.
If it's the only way it should be to incapacitate somebody is if they have a firearm or they have something like a samurai sword or a sword stick or something like that with which they can cause serious harm to the police officer or themselves or other people. That I've got no problem with, because yes, somebody can be killed. But if it's just because somebody won't put a bottle of beer down or they won't answer questions, that's no justification.
82 years old. I mean, come on. I mean, it's like.
Yeah, I mean, they even fired. One even fired at a guy who was blind, had a white blind person's cane, and what was the excuse they came up with? Oh, I thought it was a samurai sword. I think what that officer was told is, right, this is a picture of a samurai sword. Does this look like a blind person's cane? No. So why did you taser them?
Surely that should be an instant dismissal, because if an officer can't tell the difference between a white cane and a samurai sword, he shouldn't be in the position of being a police officer in the first place.
To my mind, that person should be immediately taken off duty. They should be suspended. And to my mind, Paul, if they're doing things like that, my personal feelings are they should be immediately suspended from duty and put on indefinite sick leave, and then be assessed at regular intervals, because it does need to look at whether their tetra radio is affecting their brain chemistry, or whether they have been subjected to some form of neurolinguistic programming, but not in a sort of the clinical sense, which is what clinical psychologists do with people who've got things like obsessive compulsive.
No, but in the sense of the way common purpose use neuralistic programming.
Exactly, it's done in a very dark and very dangerous way, and I've heard them say this on UK Column a number of times. I think Brian Garrison, I think also Mike Robertson there said something.
Big up to Brian Garrish. I think he does some epic work, doesn't he?
Yes, Brian has done some fantastic work to expose the shenanigans of common purpose. To be honest, that guy should be given a medal or a NITA for what he's done. If anybody was deserving of it, of exposing sort of snakes in the grass, it's Brian Garrish. I mean, he's
Brian Garrish is such a humble guy. He'd be the sort not to want that anyway.
I mean, I've met Brian on a number of occasions, and he's very, very laid back, very humble sort of ordinary sort of guy. You wouldn't think he'd been a lieutenant commander in the Navy. He doesn't strike me, but he is. He's a very, very clever man, though.
What he's doing for Melanie Shaw at the minute is absolutely. I mean, yeah,
Awesome.
he's doing it. He's doing a brilliant work. So is another lot of people as well in the Peterborough area that are local to.
Yeah. Well, Melanie's Mackenzie friend. She's down here where I am in Plymouth, and
Oh, is she?
yes, that's Kay, her Mackenzie friend. I mean, I've had conversations about certain aspects of Melanie's case. Kind of, well, can they do that? Can they do this? Can they do that? No. So yeah, well, I mean, we are beginning to find out that this. I mean, I think once you start peeling away, it's like an onion. You start peeling away the layers. You start to get to the bottom, to the middle of it, and you start to find that it's got maggots and other things in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But boy, don't it make your eyes water on the way down to the centre?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
When you've done some legal, because when you do some legal kind of forensics and look into things, you think, shit, are they really capable of that?
Well, when you start, I mean, I think it was what's his name, Guy Taylor came out with the word legal forensics. When you start doing the forensics of something, you start to sort of see what steps they've taken, and you think, hang about, they're not supposed to do that, or hang about, there's no law in the land that allows them to do that. And then you start to find they've been doing things that are actually come under the heading of malfeasance. Malfeasance simply means misbehaviour, but it's misbehaviour that is malicious misbehaviour. And when you hear the term malfeasance in public office, that is when a public servant, or including a civil servant, which includes a police officer, has done something that has broken the trust that the public has in them to such an extent. It's quite serious. I mean, that's misfeasance, but malfeasance normally it's being done maliciously.
It's all done. I tell you what, like what they've done to Melanie, and like there's a letter being shared at the moment, and basically it's just all fucked up. They're trying to take her house at the minute. They're trying to do all sorts of stuff, but I don't want to obviously talk too much into that and sort of become a hindrance into Brian Gerrish's work, because that's something I would never ever want to do.
One thing they were doing, Staci, is they were depriving her of things like insulin and things like that. It's no, I mean, it's no good Sodexo saying, oh well, we were told to do it. The answer to that is no. It doesn't make any difference. If you deprive somebody of essential medicine and you cause them to suffer detriment to their health as a result of it, then you are guilty of an offence under the health and safety legislation. So, I mean, those who are involved in that sort of behaviour and torture, I mean, what she's been through is tantamount to torture, and I think if it was put to the test under the law, it would be found that those at that prison have been guilty of torture. Now, it's no good them saying, oh, well, it's a private firm, it's nothing to do with us. Yes, it is. They are performing a public function, and therefore they are subject to the Human Rights Act and the European Convention on Human Rights. So it's no good them trying to bully and ballot and say, well, you can't touch it. Yes, we can. Those people who were involved in that, get good solicitors because you're going to need them. Because this is going to turn around and bite them and Sodexo on their backside.
And a jury of 12 good men will indeed find them well and truly guilty.
I wouldn't mind betting an international court would find the same way. The only difference is, Paul, you would have a panel of 12 judges. I mean, you've got the International Criminal Court in Brussels, which basically is the International War Crimes Tribunal in peacetime. You've also got the International Commonwealth Court of Justice, that's also in Brussels, and you've also got the International Court of Justice.
That sets up tomorrow, actually, the 15th it starts.
What's that?
It's launching tomorrow properly on the 15th of June, the the Justice Court.
Oh, is this the International Commonwealth Court of Justice?
Yes, launching tomorrow down in London, because it's also the anniversary tomorrow of the Magna Carta 800th anniversary.
I bet that's going to what's his name? Failing great. Oh no, he's not the Justice Secretary anymore, is he? He's the Thunderbirds puppet Gove.
Oh, even worse, isn't it? It just
Well, I
gets
mean,
worse and worse and worse.
he's probably going to pay him off as well, because the International Common Law Court of Justice, that goes after those who've been hiding paedophilia, which is really going to pay them off. They seem absolutely terrifying. As soon as you mention the word paedophilia in a sentence, they absolutely mess their pants.
Yeah. I'm just looking at another article as well. I mean, there's something. I'm trying to look for an article on Tony Blair, because Tony Blair's been brought back in, isn't he?
I think most people regard Tony Blair as a war criminal.
He is a war criminal. He's a murderer. He murdered innocent people from over here that went out to Iraq. Yeah. Well, to Afghanistan. There's a bit of feedback. There's a bit of feedback here, lads. Oh, there we go. Paul, you're the main culprit again.
I'm starting to mute my mic when I'm not talking.
Aye, that's cool. That's no problem. But yeah, I can't find the article, because obviously, you know what I'm like, Michael, when I research things. It's very Yeah.
I mean, with Tony Blair, yeah, I mean, he's not the only war criminal. I mean, you've got George W. Bush, you've got Dick Cheney, and you've also got Donald Rumsfeld. Now, Rumsfeld, he was tied up with McDonnell Douglas. McDonnell Douglas are a large American aerospace company. They're also involved in arms as well. And Cheney has got quite a substantial interest in a company called Halliburton. Now, it's very strange that the company that was getting a lot of the contracts to rebuild these companies was a company called Halliburton. So it doesn't, I mean, I may be wrong, but I doubt I am, but I think you'll find this is just corruption on an industrial scale.
Indeed it is. I've just found one from Sky News, Tony Blair's new role to tackle anti-Semitism. What is anti-Semitism? What's Semitism, Michael? Just so we know.
What it is you have you've got these Zionists. What these Zionists are, they try to make up they're Jews, and if you start attacking the Jews, it's anti-Semitism. Well, no, Zionists aren't Jews, actually. They are anything but
They're Cancerian Jews.
Yeah, they're Ashkenazi Jews. If you wonder where the word Nazi comes from, it's only going to come from National Socialist, because on the end of the word Ashkenazi, it's spelled A-S-K-E-N, but it has got the word Nazi on the end of it, N-A-Z-I. Now, these Ashkenazi Jews, as they like to call themselves, or Zionists as they call themselves now, come from one of the former Soviet republics, and they believe that the Rothschilds were these Ashkenazi Jews. They're not who they say they are. I mean, they were Germans, and they kept changing their names to kind of hide their true identity. But in Israel, a lot of the Israeli government, they believe are Zionists. They're not true Jews. I mean, the Orthodox Jews, they want nothing to do with the Zionists. When people start saying, "Oh, Zionist Jews," this is a lot of Orthodox Jews and what I call the true Jewish face. They don't anything to do with them. So.
It makes me laugh, the fact if you start supporting the Palestinians, that they start crying out anti-Semitism. But the trouble is, the Palestinians are Semitic as well, as Semitic.
Well, there's, I think the Palestinians are Muslims, and the Palestinians were there long before the Israelis were. I mean, Israel didn't exist up until the end of World War II.
Even says here, instability. For goodness sakes, do you know what fuels instability? Tony Blair and bloody what's his name, Piggle, and Ian.
Well, they reckon that quite a few of the Tory cabinet are Zionists.
No, well, Katie Hopkins is definitely one of them.
That wouldn't surprise me because David Cameron and a few others have gone on record. Oh, I'm a conservative friend of Israel. Why would somebody be a friend of Israel when with its record? I mean, what have they done? They have systematically tried to ethnically cleanse Palestinian people out of existence.
Genocide.
Yes, exactly. They're genocidal. But I mean, the real Jews, like I said, the Orthodox Jews, they don't want to have anything to do with these Zionists. They say, don't associate us with them. We are not them. We are Jewish, and we are true Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
What they call Orthodox Jews.
Like the ISIS as well. They're talking about all these terrorists and all this and I mean, I watched a video I think it was a few days ago now, where a young lad, he was it was like a bit of a social experiment. He walked around and his name was like Kalim or something. And he was like walking around and he was like, like talking to girls, and he was quite I mean, as a married woman, you know, he was quite a attractive kind of lad, and he was saying like, oh yeah, my name's Kalim, what's your name, darling, and trying to get numbers. But it wasn't like a cheap pickup line, but he was actually Muslim. But he was really flattering and really charming, really articulate. And then he just said, he made a subtle kind of remark about his name. They went, oh, so where does your name come from? One girl asked. He went, oh, it's from Egypt. My parents are Egyptian. And she was like, all right. And she goes, well, it's like an Egyptian Muslim kind of thing. And she went, delete my number out of your phone now. Get away from me. And she threatened to call the cops because this is what the establishment in America want, is them to think that Muslims are terrorists and they beat women and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, well,
it's funny you should say that because, I mean, countries like Saudi Arabia, it's funny how the British and a few other countries turn a blind eye there.
Oh, we're well in bed with them.
Yeah, why is that? Oh, yeah, because they're good customers of the arms firms.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can't start criticising people, calling them terrorists. Because, I mean, it's beginning to come out now that Christianity and Islam were created by these idiots who like to call themselves the elite, so they could have people at each other's throats. Well, nice try. I think the Muslims, the ones who kind of follow a Muslim-like faith, have twigged what's going on, and they don't want anything to do with it.
Anybody that thinks ISIS is for totally real, people that wear black ninja outfits in the desert, in the hot sun and that, well, that don't make sense. But what even more does not make sense is they're attacking all the Muslim countries, yet they're leaving Israel alone.
Yeah, very suspicious that. I mean, ISIS, I've heard that the security services in a number of countries are behind that. I mean, ISIS, my stance on it, ISIS, I'm simply idiotic and stupid. That's exactly what it is. They're not real terrorists.
They're working proxies for the murderers, the war criminals.
That's right. I mean, you take that Charlie Hebdo thing in Paris. I mean, there's a guy who goes to some meetings I go to, and he was in the army. When you saw that footage of that guy in the black clothing with an AK-47 to fire at one-handed, he said that is physically impossible.
Yeah.
It's physically impossible. If you tried to fire an AK-47 like that, it would rip your arm out of its socket.
Yeah. I've actually fired a Tommy gun, and by me, you have to do your best to hold the damn thing down.
Yeah. Well, with an AK-47, you need to hold it with both hands, and ideally rest it on the barrel on something. Because if you don't, it will literally rip your arm off, rip your arm out of its socket. The other thing as well is the ammunition. If they fired at a point-blank range at the gendarme's head, there wouldn't have been much left of the gendarme's head. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, they are beginning to make mistakes now that everybody is beginning to notice. It's a bit like that scene in The Wizard of Oz with Judy Garland.
Yeah.
Yeah, where the dog kind of pulls the curtain to one side and got some old guy there manipulating the Now you look at the screen. Yeah, sorry, but it...
Well, according to Donald Rumsfeld, I would imagine him saying that ISIS is substantial equivalence to terrorism.
The only terrorists we've got are in the City of London, Capitol Hill, the White House, and the Pentagon.
Yeah.
And they're called and there's other terrorists called the FBI and the CIA.
Yeah. But it's the unholy trinity.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, they think we're all stupid. We're all going to believe anything they tell us. No, I mean, people have worked it out for themselves. They've also, as people who produce the evidence, as people who blow the whistle, and I mean, they're trying their best to cover it up, trying to say, oh no, that's all crap. No, sorry, genie's out of the bottle, and the genie don't want to go back in. They're stuffed, and they know they're stuffed.
Yeah, I mean, they honestly believe they can stick their finger in a leaking dike and stem the flow, but they can't.
No, I'm afraid the leak in the dike has got so bad that I don't think even Dynamo could plug it.
No. Well, speaking of firing weaponry, there's a certain person that I certainly wouldn't mind firing some kind of weaponry at, and it's if anyone remembers years ago from a children's television program, it's Rolf Harris. Sorry, Paul, you want to...
Yeah, well, that's regarding blinking Rolf Harris. I mean, we had blinking Jimmy Savile, as in foil. Now we have Rolf's a file, paedophile, a dark heart that cannot register the fact what he has done to his victims that ripples through their adulthoods and affects not only just them through their adulthood, but through the people that surround them.
Exactly.
He completely messed with those people's psyches.
Well, he's really Paul, do you want to mute your mic a sec? It's just its feedback. Oh, there we go. He's wrote a song mocking his victims as money-grabbing wenches, and further on, it goes along here to say that he's wrote letters to a victim's father. I mean, I'm an aunt, you know what I mean? And that's the closest to mother that I am at the moment. And some of these things that he's saying in these letters that I can make out because of his pretty much messed up handwriting. Just like, please forgive me what must have... It even says, please forgive me, and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, what the actual hell? And
unfortunately, Staci, this is a common thing with paedophiles. They will try their best to blame their victims, not themselves. They just cannot see anything wrong in what they do. They suffer. I mean, some of them have what's called psychopathic personality disorder.
well, they should be honestly just taken out, if I'm truthful.
Well, there are some that have got psychopathic personality disorder, which goes towards paedophilia, which is so bad they have to live in secure units around the country, and they're not allowed to go out into the community on their own. They've got to have at least one or sometimes two psychiatric nurses or support staff with them if they go outside into the community.
What grade prison is Rolf Harris actually in?
I don't actually know, Paul.
I'll have a quick look. Because they usually, I mean, it's usually high security they put these bastards in, but...
Well, Category A is things like they're long-term prisoners, like murderers and multiple rapists.
Yeah, but I mean, paedophiles are complete utter menace to society. They should be locked away for good because there is no cure in them. There's no cure in them.
Usually I would think they would go in a Category B.
Oh, well, I've just looked as well. There's a BBC article here that says this is where Rolf Harris probably did abuse these children, that says that this should affect the parole. Obvious statement of the week actually goes to the BBC. Absolutely shocking. Of course it should affect his parole.
There should be no parole.
Exactly, but it says the revolting song has left one victim totally distraught. Harris was jailed for last year for 12 indecent assaults against 4 girls, one aged just 7 or 8. He was sentenced to 5 years and 9 months for the crime, which took. Oh, he's at Stafford prison. He's at Stafford. So, see the thing. Look at all these different. Oh, he just looks so vile. It actually makes me like I'm a woman. Do you know what I mean? And like, I just feel it, man. I mean, I'm gonna look into Stafford prison while you guys are.
I mean, abusing children below the age of 13. I mean, 8 and 9. I mean, that's unforgivable.
Oh my God, he's in a Category C prison.
What?
Yeah, Stafford prison information. Ministry of Justice.
Does that mean he gets day releases?
No. They go to Category D before they get released. Day release, I think you'll find is only Category D. But so something like that. I mean, abusing young children like that. I mean, that is somebody with a serious problem. I mean, I would not be putting him in a Category C. I'd be putting him in a Category B.
Oh, I mean, there's a prison just not far from me called Wood Hill, and there's loads of different people in there. I mean, and they're all put in that's Category A, and the paedophiles are actually put on their own wing. I think this should be made to segregate instead of segregating them, just put them in and get what they deserve.
They recently put in segregation is they are kept in solitary confinement. And I have heard arguments that is tantamount to torture. Unfortunately, it's done for their safety because if they put them in with others, it's quite likely that they'd be dealing with in custody. But it does cause psychological problems.
Oh, of course, it's them psychological problems.
Yeah, I mean, some do cause top themselves.
Well, you know.
But I mean, they try to rehabilitate them by trying to find out why they've done it, what's driving them, what's motivating them. But, what you need to understand about paedophiles is they're very devious and very cunning, and they can be very, very convincing. This is why they're so dangerous.
Yeah.
I think the mental health.
Sorry, go ahead, Michael.
I think the mental health sector, the psychiatrists, psychologists, and those who work with people with mental health issues like psychopathic personality disorder, they say that there's a lot they don't know about the human mind. They're still learning about it and trying to sort of understand how the thought processes of a paedophile, especially one with PPD, psychopathic personality disorder, how their mind works it even scares the living daylights out of a lot of sort of seasoned psychiatrists and clinical psychologists. Sometimes they can kind of come out of interviewing one of these and they're absolutely shaking, or they kind of come out and say, "God, I feel bloody cold after speaking to that person. Don't let me back in there with them again." That's how bad they can affect even experienced psychiatrists.
God.
Yeah.
They're such dark hearts. Such dark hearts.
Dark hearts.
A category in prison for someone as high profile as Rolf Harris. I mean, the prison must be up in arms.
Well, when Gary Glitter was in prison for what he did, it's alleged that the other prisoners, I mean, there was a song that he made when he was Gary Glitter, You Want to Be in My Gang, and it's alleged that other prisoners were kind of shouting from the other levels, do you want to be in my cell? And recently, Paul Gadd, which is Gary Glitter's real name, he's gone for another stretch.
Yeah, so
he just can't. He just cannot help himself. I won't be surprised if he's going to go in one day and he's not going to come out except in a wooden box. Because if he cannot stop offending, then obviously there is an issue of public safety. And obviously the community and also the probation service have to do something to ensure that the danger, the risk factor is minimised as much as they possibly can. But with Gary Glitter continually going back into prison for paedophilia, I think he's going to cause a problem, because even the Cambodians, he went out to Cambodia and he was caught over there and he got in prison, he was deported, and as soon as he gets back in this country, he gets caught again. So there you go.
It's shocking, isn't it?
Trying to rehabilitate them is very, very difficult, and this is why.
How can you rehabilitate a paedophile? This is something that I don't understand.
You've got two types of paedophiles, Stacey. You've got ones who've been victims of abuse themselves, and you've got ones who've got this incurable psychopathic personality disorder. They're the dangerous ones, the PPD ones. The ones who've been victims of abuse and start to become abusers themselves. Now, one thing they have found is if they can intervene before that person gets to the stage of becoming an abuser themselves, they can help that person deal with what happened to them and stop them from becoming an abuser. In a lot of cases.
Yeah. That's a case of rewiring the brain, basically, isn't it? Rearranging their thought processes. But as you say, the psychopathic ones, there's no way of changing it with them.
No.
They can't be.
No. I mean, the ones who've been abusers, what the ones who've been abusers, they've got low self-esteem. They're also suffering from post-traumatic stress, which is not unusual with people who've been sexually abused. They can deal with that. And they've got cognitive behavioural therapists. They've got people who work with these abuse victims to try and stop them becoming abusers. And where they've been able to intervene in an early stage and stop them becoming abusers, they've had quite good success rates. But it begs the question: why were these people allowed to become abuse victims in the first place?
Absolutely, it's just shocking.
That's a question that I know it's a very, very delicate question to ask in any respect, but it is a question that has to be asked. Why have these people become victims in the first place? And I think this is a question that needs to be asked more openly, and it also needs to be asked with politicians, particularly Egil Pegel and Michael Gove and all the rest of them. Why they have just kind of swept under the carpet.
Yeah, but the politicians are still trying to make it's all historical. It's all historical. Well, even if it only happened yesterday, it's still historical. So that it don't wash their historical rubbish. Not with me, anyway.
No.
I don't think it's washing with anybody now, Paul. Everybody's had enough of it. I mean,
here's my question. I've got a question for David Cameron. How have I just found out 5 minutes before we went live on air that Jimmy Savile was actually linked with a certain hospital where I know somebody that was abused in? It wasn't at the time where Jimmy Savile was around, but surely there's some connections. probably still working there, or maybe even just started working there, where Jimmy Savile was abusing these children.
Yeah, I think Cameron has got some serious questions to ask, and I mean, it's no good him trying to act hard like he tries to. I know. I mean, we all know he's just doing what he's told by the Rothschilds and also by the City of London. But I mean, the day is going to come, and I think it's going to be a lot sooner than a lot of us think. When he is going to have to stand and face the people, and he is going to have to answer for what he's done and what he's allowed to be done. And I can see David Cameron going to prison, and I can see him spending a lot of years there. He's done some pretty bad, and he's allowed some pretty horrific things to be done in the name of the British people. The people aren't going to. I'm sorry, but the people are not going to have it. He's not a dead man walking. He's a man whose days of freedom are. I think he should start counting them, because I don't think he's going to be a free man for much longer.
No, definitely not. Here's another thing that's come up in my bit of research as well. Bungling ATOS raking £500 million of taxpayers' cash from botched fitness to work tests. I think this might hit a few nerves with a couple of our viewers here at Unity Peace Patrol News as well. It's something, I know it's going way off subject, but it's a wide subject, child abuse, but this is also an abuse in another sense by the government, if that makes sense. Tom Greatrex, that's what, Great Rex, or Great Twat, I can't, what would you say that was?
Tom Greatrex.
Tom Greatrex, oh, that's me.
It is Greatrex.
But I'll call him Great Twat.
No, he's actually, Tom Greatrex did a lot to help people who were victims of ATOS, or as I saw them being called, ATOSers. They were tossers, a lot. The management of that company. What they found with ATOS is that there were managers who weren't even medically qualified changing reports, so they were beneficial to the Department of Work and Pensions. Now, if that is illegal, it's fraud. And the other thing it's also a breach of data protection. Now, people who managed to get hold of their reports and found out they'd been changed, they challenged the firm, and the firm immediately started offering 50 quid of compensation. They said, if you just cost me X number of thousands of pounds. And in the end, ATOS were having to pay compensation for what had happened. To my mind, as soon as it became clear that this is what was going on, the government should have said, right, that's it. We are cancelling your contract. But unfortunately, you've got these very distant, some civil servants who have been lying to the politicians, just covering it up. Those politicians, those civil servants do need to be named and shamed. And if they've been taking backhanders, or if it's found they've been taking backhanders, then I'm sorry, but into prison they must go. And any money, any dirty money they've got, that's seized.
Well, they say that mental health isn't what's the word? Isn't an excuse not to work. Now, I've got mental health issues. I'll admit it live on air. I've got bipolar disorder. So what that basically is like I suppose it's a big higher form of PMS. It's mood swings, and I've had numerous episodes, and they are very unpredictable. So my point is that, like, if I was to go into a situation in an office, say, and I'm talking to somebody, I could stand there and bawl and cry, but for no reason whatsoever. Or I could be, and then the next 5 seconds I could change and be dead happy again and just happy-go-lucky Stacy. But yeah, it's a bit of a.
I mean, there is evidence that some psychiatric complaints are completely fictitious. They've been made up by the pharmaceutical industry so they can sell a lot of pharmaceutical drugs. But
the thing is,
there are ones like you've got which are genuine, and obviously, yes, it's down to a biochemical processes are going wrong. But also, what appears to be mental health symptoms are either due to an issue with wiring in the way the brain is wired, or it's an outward symptom of physical illness, which, because of a change in the blood chemistry or the chemistry of the brain, it makes the body react in a way that may appear bizarre or unusual to somebody who happens to see it. It can also be caused by stress. I mean, they say stress is a physical condition, but it also can manifest itself as alleged mental illness in inverted commas. But there are some, I mean, schizophrenia, they used to think that was a mental illness. It's not actually. It's a physical illness which has mental health type sort of outward symptoms, but it is actually it's to do with the brain tissue. And Alzheimer's, and my mother, she had something called vascular dementia, which is caused by one of the causes is diabetes. Sadly, she died back in February, but yeah, and that was caused by the diabetes causing blood clots, and which were gradually destroying her brain, and because it was destroying the part of the brain that deals with cognitive functions, which is the left-hand corner of the forehead, the frontal lobe, which is just behind the forehead. Yeah, that's what brings on these funny sort of symptoms.
Sorry, Paul. Do you want to say something, my mate?
No, as I say, I was just chirping in really. Say, Michael was saying, can bring in different episodes of reactions which wouldn't normally be happening.
It's shocking. It's like, I mean, I was medicated for quite a long time, and I just said one day, fuck it. I don't want to be. I was a zombie, pretty much. They wanted to keep me on all sorts of different concoctions of medications. I went, listen, I ain't fucking having it now. And I've been absolutely fine. I mean, I do have my agitation episodes at times where I sit and I talk, and I could talk non-stop without hardly taking a breath.
Phew, don't we know it?
I get them quite often, but...
Yeah, I mean, I know somebody where I live, and they got mental health problems, but there's, as a result of a head injury they sustained in a road accident 16 odd years ago. So yes, it can follow a head injury even. So yeah, I mean, just because somebody is displaying mental health, what could be termed mental health symptoms, it doesn't necessarily mean they're mad or they're not mad. They may have had a head injury when they were younger, or just they were born with something like that, where their body chemistry isn't quite what it should be, and it just needs something to sort of correct it, or the wiring in the brain is not what it should be. It's not their fault, and certainly a lot of people can live quite happily with mental health conditions. I mean, people with bipolar. There are people, I mean, some people who can do wonderfully creative things. I mean, like Milligan, he had bipolar. I mean, in his case, it used to be debilitating. He had a really bad sort of low. I mean, they had literally had to lift him in and out of his bed. But I mean, he was a comic genius. I mean, I read one of his books. What was it called? Adolf Hitler, My Part in His Downfall. I mean, when I read that the first time, I was helpless after. I mean, he really was a comic genius. I mean, there's another guy called Chris Fogg. He runs a company called Hook Advertising. I mean, yes, he does some daft things like hiring aircraft and flying off around the country with his. But some of the advertising campaigns he creates when he's high, I mean, some of them are fantastic, very successful. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean that person's mad. It just means that they're different. It just means that person's different. It doesn't mean they're mad or anything like that. It just makes them different. That's all.
Exactly. There's a few. I've just pulled up a list of celebrities even that have bipolar disorder. so that people know that they aren't alone. Let's have a look and see what. I don't know whether you guys can you guys see that now?
Yeah. I think Stephen Fry's one of them.
Stephen Fry is definitely one of them. Russell Brand's one.
Adam Adamant, Sophie Anderson. Wow, I mean, look at
that. Dick Cavett, yep. Stephen Fry, he was in that V for Vendetta as well. I'm just going for a few names here.
Jeremy Brett.
Yeah.
He's an actor. Frank Bruno.
Yeah, Frank Bruno, Larry
Alistair Campbell.
Demi Lovato, that surprised me.
Demi Lovato.
Yeah, that's her.
Rosemary Clooney.
Tom Fletcher, Stephen Fry, yep. Mel Gibson, that actually surprised me.
Carrie Fisher, Larry Flint, Connie Francis, Stephen Fry.
Macy Gray.
Mel Gibson.
That surprised me actually, because he. I think there was like a celebrity. I can't remember his name. I think it was Jim Carrey.
Linda Hamilton from the Terminator movies.
Wow.
Yeah, she's got bipolar.
I think the lead, one of the, I think it was Slash from Guns N' Roses. He's got it as well.
Yeah, Jesse Jackson, the American politician, he's got it. Just because you're bipolar doesn't mean you're useless. I mean, these people are very, very prominent and very successful in their own fields. I mean, it's like dyslexia.
Wow.
I mean, I'll go into that once we've done this about dyslexia, because people write off people with dyslexia as thick and not do anything but.
Do you want me to quickly do it here? Because I can do it from here, or are you going to do it?
Oh, sorry, I'll do that, because I'll just cover it. Bellotti. Oh, look at this Bellotti. He's bipolar. Yeah, people with dyslexia, they think it's something to do with the wiring, the way the brain is wired. And it causes, I mean, you know this, Staci, because I mean your Dan has got dyslexia, and I know a couple of other people with dyslexia. It affects a person's ability to understand and interpret written and spoken communication. Now,
wow.
Whoa!
I've just looked here on dyslexia.com, and I've just looked at one, and this will surprise you, Michael. Hang on a minute, let me just pull it up. I've just looked myself and gone, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, Orlando Bloom, Jim Carrey, Whoopi Goldberg, Susan Hampshire, Keira Knightley, Keanu Reeves, Oliver Reed, Henry Winkler.
Albert Einstein was dyslexic.
Yeah. Robin Williams, late Robin Williams, very gifted actor.
Indeed, he was.
Leonardo da Vinci. Tommy Hilfiger.
Actually, I realised I've got a very mild form of dyslexia, and I realised that when I actually got my computer 3 years ago. I'd be actually typing away my words, and when I look back, the word I've typed, I've got all the correct letters, but they're all jumbled up, and it weren't as though I was thinking I was typing it.
John Lennon.
Nigel Kennedy, John Lennon, Andy Warhol, Duncan Gyurtue,
Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, Bruce Jenner.
Let's have a look at the entrepreneurs and business.
Jackie Stewart.
Richard Branson, that's something. William
Henry Ford. William Hewlett, as you can see there, co-founder of Hewlett Packard.
It's mad, isn't it?
McCall. That guy, Craig McCall, where it says telecommunications visionary. Well, that's the guy you've got to thank for the mobile phone. If it hadn't been for his vision, we would not have mobile phones. And this guy had dyslexia to the point where it was crippling. But Ted Turner, he owns quite a few of the Stephen Cannell, an American writer. Christie.
Wow, Steven Spielberg. Dyslexic.
Blimey.
Steven Spielberg. Walt Disney.
it's absolutely amazing what you can pick up just by looking through the internet. There's just going back. I'm just going to keep going down to.
Hans Christian Andersen, he was dyslexic.
It's like poets and people that write. You know what I mean? It's like
Ed Scott Fitzgerald. My God.
Scott Adams, cartoonist. Wow, it says it all in itself. You know, I mean, I'm not saying like everybody could go out and write a book or everybody could go out and make a great film, but they can really do something, and it's like an inspiration there. I mean, when my dad's being the pizza man tonight, and he was out on call, and when I come, I'm going to show him that and say, look, you're dyslexic, but so was Andy Warhol, so was Steven Spielberg. You love his films.
So's Tom Cruise, believe it or not.
Yeah, it's like this is. I think instead of demonizing people, like I mean,
exactly. Everybody's got talents in their own areas, and a lot of people just haven't found their own talent.
I'm dyslexic. I cannot add up to save my life. But Dan, on the other hand, he's dyslexic. But see, this is where we balance, I think, because I cannot add up to save my life. I actually struggled so badly in maths. And Dan can reel off these numbers off the top of his head. He is a talented carpenter. He is made gates. He's always fixing things, isn't he? Always. I mean, yeah. Josh stays with us, and he's even said, like, it's amazing how much he can actually fix things, and just like within 2 seconds he's just fiddling around with something, then boom, it's fixed. Like my car, for instance.
Yeah, know? Well, my neighbour, Staci, he's very badly dyslexic, like your Dan, but he's a motor mechanic. I mean, he can't work now because he's got problems with coagulation, so he's on anticoagulants. So if he worked, it'd be too dangerous. But I mean, what he doesn't know about car engine, he can fix that like your Dan. But I mean, I'm left-handed. Some people see that as a disability. I don't. Left-handed people who've got spatial awareness, they can. It's strange, but quite a few left-handed people are dyslexic, but some of them are dyspraxic. They think I've got some dyspraxic elements, but it's mostly the positive ones rather than the negative ones. But yeah, I mean, we're all. A lot of people say, "Oh, you're a misfit. You're this, that." No, it is not. It just if you've got something like bipolar or dyslexia or you're left-handed or something like that, or you're gay or something like that, it just makes you different. I mean, it'd be a very boring place if we were all the same. I mean, just because we've got something like we're left-handed or dyslexia or bipolar, that can give us some tremendous gifts that we can then use to make the world a better place.
Exactly. I mean, here's an example. I had a number puncher back in 2013, I think it was, the end of 2013. And before then, I was really active. I worked 3 jobs, all this kind of stuff. I work still. I work for myself now, so that's not too bad. But anyway, so I can't walk very far now because of my lumbar puncture, because they royally mashed it up, as the politest form that I can use. And when I walk for a certain distance, it actually makes me feel like someone's got a steel toe detector bloody pair of boots and pushing like the steel toe detector into my back, into the bottom of it. Now, if anyone has ever heard of a lumbar puncture, believe me, you don't want it. It's a 10-inch needle that basically goes into your spine, and it's not very nice. But anyway, I'm still walking. I'm still doing my best. I mean, even last night, I walked around for about 3 hours, constant. Didn't sit down or anything until I actually had to, and that's when I belled you, Michael, wasn't it? Oh, you're back in the mud.
Yeah, but that's like me. You suffer later. You pay the price later.
Absolutely. I don't get it. I mean, I'm going to walk 2.5 miles to London, and I'm going to do it not because of any glory or anything. I'm going down to London to actually make a point that I walked that 2.4 miles, and yeah, okay, I'm going to pay the price and I'll be in bed most of the day on the Sunday, but Jesus wept. I think what it proves is that, look, if anyone can do it, then we can, you know?
Yeah. I mean, this is where the job centres, where they send you to Atos for these work assessments, and they go on stupid things like, okay, you can lift a pencil, you can work. Now that is extremely bonkers. I mean, they're not taking into consideration you might be able to work for a day, but the rest of the week you might be on your back suffering because you worked that day. And when I say suffering, I mean a real suffer, not just a little headache or a little bit of a cold. I mean suffering.
Yeah. I mean, like when I was walking around, even Michael did say, I got in the car, went and sat in my car, and I put my phone up, sat my phone in my cradle kind of thing, and I said to Michael, I've got a really banging headache and my back's killing me, and he went, it's because you've walked about, it's because your lower back, what was it, Michael, your lower back with your spine, linked to your spine and going up to your brain, something like that.
What it is the muscles in your back are permanently switched on. Because if you didn't have those muscles switched on, your back would be all over the place, and also the muscles in your leg are switched on all the time. Otherwise, you just end up in a heap on the ground. Because all the muscles are interconnected with each other, any sort of tension at the base of the lower back will kind of then start going through the back, the rest of your back, your thoracic and your neck, and then all the neck muscles are connected to the muscles on your scalp. And that is when you get a tension headache. It's because all the muscles are all tense, and of course that's causing pain, because when a muscle tenses up, you feel pain.
Oof, boy, I mean, I felt it today. I mean, I was in bed for about, I worked even today. I went and sat in the living room for 3 hours, came back, went back into bed, and I couldn't move. I tried to get out of bed again, and then I ended up going back to sleep for a couple of hours, and I'm still feeling pretty ugh now, you know, but I'm going to do it because it's me, because it's my relentlessness. I'm sorry. It's my, but people, everybody's inner strength measures from person to person. So somebody that has had the same sort of thing happen to them, like with a lumbar puncture, for instance, they're not going to be the same. They're not going to be the same as me. They might not be able to move at all. I mean, it depends on how royally the hospital bollocksed it up, or if you moved, which in my case, partly it was to do with the hospital, but partly I moved, because obviously if you're feeling a bit of pain, you're going to move away from it.
So you show your strengths in many other ways, Staci, and just remember, in the world of the blind, the one-eyed man is king.
I like that phrase. I like I mean, I don't know what you guys think of the picture. In my, I changed the picture with V for Vendetta facing David Cameron. It says no one rules, and then on his side, and then it says if no one obeys on the other.
Exactly.
This is the thing. We do need to wake these people up. We do need to wake the sheeple up. I mean, I did an edited version of. Has anyone ever seen V for Vendetta?
I've seen.
Let me find it, because I did have it. Matt, I tell you what, my laptop's playing up. My camera's been on tonight. My phone, there's been, like, on my Facebook, there's been things taken off my Facebook, and all different stuff.
Hello, GCHQ.
Hiya, how are you, you little shitheads? But yeah, like I did this. I was going to read it out, but basically I've changed it all. I've just put like there's a lot of V for Vendetta in this, so I've just edited it a little bit. Like it says, There are, of course, those who do not want us to speak. I suspect even now, silly, pointless adverts are being thrown onto your YouTube channels, your telly channels, and Facebook. And GCHQ are listening into what we're saying at this very moment and handing over my name, because it probably is, over to the corrupt police forces to try and silence us. Why? Because while the truncheon may be used in lieu of conversation, words will always retain their power. Words offer the means to meaning, and those who will listen, the enunciation of truth. And the truth is, there's something terribly wrong with this country, isn't there? Cruelty and injustice, intolerance and oppression, and where once you had the freedom to object, think, speak as you saw fit, and indeed vote for who you felt was appropriate or capable to be in power, you now have censors and systems of surveillance coercing your conformity and silencing your submission. How did this happen? Who's to blame? Well, certainly there are those more responsible than others, and they will be held accountable. But then, truth be told, sheeple, if you're looking for the guilty, you need only look into the mirror. I know why you did it. I know you were afraid. Who wouldn't be? War in Iraq, terrorists, Ebola. There were a myriad of problems which conspired to corrupt your reason and rob you of your common sense. Fear got the best of you, and in your panic you turned to the now sole Prime Minister of England, David Cameron. He promised you order, he promised you financial assistance, and all he demanded in return was your silent, obedient consent. Don't know what you guys thought of that.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's good, because in a world of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act.
It is. It is. And I mean, the thing is, it's just like, it's shocking, isn't it? It's like, there is something terribly wrong with this country. Absolutely. It's something people are, I mean, even this, for instance, I mean, we're going back to the TV licensing, which funds, which has funded Rolf Harris, Jimmy Savile. We could go on, really. But even here it says the BBC has splurged £10,000 in alcohol this year, including expensive wine for boozy bashes and award ceremonies we can reveal. Corporation staff spent £9,194 on high-end wine, beer, cider and spirits between January and April to treat themselves and celebrity guests at your expense. An eye-watering just over £6,500 was spent on wine, while beer and cider cost taxpayers £2,380. On the most expensive bottles, I don't know what that says, Naya Timber Classic Cuvée 2003 retails at £32. In 2010 it was named the best sparkling wine in the world following a prestigious blind taste test. Another pricey bottle, this is Vignoble Grand Reserva Malbec 2011, has also received several accolades, but it's all come from your TV license, allegedly.
Yeah, I think it's going to get to the point sooner or later where people are going to say, right, no more are we going to fund this extravagance or the covering up of paedophilia by celebrities. I think people are fighting back. I mean, you get the usual Mickey takes out of what a BBC stands for. I mean, yes, we know it stands for British Broadcasting Corporation. I can remember a time when it was called the British Barrel Scraping Corporation because of the rubbish they used to broadcast on it. I've also seen things like Batty Boys Club.
Dan calls it the Broken Biscuit Club.
Yeah, the Biscuit Club. British Bummers Club.
Josh just came out with one. What did you say?
Baffled Baboons Club.
Yes, you could have something like the British Baboons Corporation, something like that. Yeah.
They're baffled baboons.
Oh,
They're
baffled, yes.
Yeah, they're baffled by the truth.
Yeah, Baffled Baboons
Baffled by the Truth Corporation.
I mean, when the BBC staff were allowed to be themselves, but many years ago, I mean, it it used to. I mean, a lot of your top writers, screenwriters, started their careers with the BBC, and the BBC used to produce some fantastic programs and fantastic drama. That was how the BBC was renowned throughout the world. Now, unfortunately, it's become nothing more than a propaganda machine. A right-wing government.
Yeah, it's done a 180-degree flip, hasn't it?
Here you go, guys.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Brainwashing Baboons Club.
Brainwashing Baboons Club was Josh's one.
Yeah, British Brainwashing Corporation is probably more of an accurate description of what they are now.
Yeah.
Or the Bribery and Blackmailed Corporation.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah.
But then again, we've got a varied suggestion on what IPCC stands for.
Hello? I think people are trying to talk, but they forgot that their mics have been turned off. I've done that a few times. We've got our own little mess about with different things, but we come to
muted their mics.
We've come to another article, which is to do with benefits again, and it's come from the British Brainwashing Corporation. Turn benefits into repayable loans, says Tory group. This is Kwasi Kwarteng, whatever his name is, says free enterprise is the answer to Britain's problems.
Kwasi Kwarteng.
You say it better than me.
Where is this guy coming from?
Probably from his arse. It says young unemployed people should be forced to repay their benefit money when they get a job. An influential group of Conservative MPs has said. Well, here's what I'm thinking. If they're saying that, they can't. If it's a repayable loan, then they shouldn't be fucking sanctioning them.
And how can you repay a loan out of 0 contract hours?
Exactly. It's not everybody wants to go for a 0-hour contract. Do you know what I mean?
I'm talking of repaying things. When is Ian Duncan Smith going to repay £39 you claim for a breakfast? No, I'm not serious. He's a hypocrite. He or somebody else is saying that people should repay their benefits. When what are they doing? Claiming for £39 breakfast. Bloody hell! I mean, I know you can get a breakfast for less than a fiver. So what's wrong? I mean, this is beginning to get out of control, and it's time for the. I mean, everybody's noticing it now, and they're just saying, no, we're not going to put up with it anymore. I can see this government be brought down, and a lot sooner than they think. Won't be violent, but they'll get brought down. I think it's going to take even them by surprise.
I can make.
I don't get benefits because when I paid into the system, it was entitlement because I paid into the insurance scheme.
Exactly. Oh goodness, sorry guys. See, I can make a breakfast for 3 people, 2 vegetarians and 1 carnivore, and that's for about what, 10, 11 quid. I can do that. So I mean, to claim £39 for a breakfast is just like, what?
Where did he go for his breakfast? One of Gordon Ramsay's restaurants.
I want to know. I'm going to look into that. I think that's something we could interestingly do, is do a bit of research into how the hell is £39 justified to pay for a breakfast, and where the hell did he dine at? I mean, how many breakfasts can you get? I mean, if Michael's saying that there's a £5 per breakfast, he must have ate 6
of them.
6 of them, yeah.
Well, he's obviously been eating golden oysters while we've been getting shite for caviar.
Probably. We'll probably, instead of getting fish eggs, we're getting fish shite. So, But does anyone have any messages for our little friends at GCHQ? Or anyone?
Nope.
You don't have a message for GCHQ, you just don't have nothing to say to them, Josh?
Actually, yeah, suck my dick.
Well,
yes. I expect Staci to be your usual.
they can listen into whatever I've got to say because I don't give a damn.
Hey.
No, I don't think. Well, I don't. I mean, they can listen to us. They'll probably be listening to this broadcast. But I mean, I've got this to say to them. You can only do this for so long before things turn around and bite you on the arse, and I'm afraid it will turn around and bite you on the arse in the end. And I know people who have shared this feeling with me. GCHQ, the building is going to be bulldozed, whether you like it or not. So do yourselves a favour and start looking for alternative work that you will enjoy doing. If you think it's enjoyable sitting, listening and nosing on people's files, personal things like that, messing about and causing trouble, don't, because believe you me, when you get caught, the penalties you will face, and don't think you're fireproof, you're not. You'll be caught and you will be held to account for it. So don't think you're sitting behind an anonymous screen in a building that looks like a concrete donut is going to protect you. It's not, because you will be identified. You will be hunted down by those who will bring you to justice. So get out where you can.
Yeah, and just remember, when you're finished serving the devil's purposes, he consumes his own.
No, well, I've got a message for GCHQ. If you are listening to this broadcast, it might give you a bit of an education for the absolute bollocks that you're watching on the BBC. Maybe you should make a swift transit to watching things such as UK Column, Unity Peace Patrol, Axiom Curb. There's loads and loads of different ones. Alternative media always gives the true news. And as I keep referring back to V for Vendetta because I love it, it says in a part of it that it's not our job to fabricate the news, that's the government's job. So obviously you need to start sorting your heads out, you brainwashed baboons.
Oh dear.
The brain, I don't know, like, I just don't understand how long she's been bad for so long.
Hello?
Hello? Who's your lady friend?
Oh dear.
Sorry, it's just like last night really drained me and I don't know what London's going to do, but I'm going to give it my best shot anyway, lads.
Good on you, gal.
Got to. It's not just for the sake of, it's not for the sake of me or like my future kids or my kids. It's for humanity. That's what this is all about.
Yes, because this isn't just happening in our country. This is worldwide now. This is worldwide. That they are now getting their infrastructure finally put into place. And once they've done it, if we don't do something about it, we've lost the ball, mate. We've lost the ball.
Exactly. Anyway, lads and ladettes, this is Staci McClennon, the Human Library, Josh the comedy cameraman, and Blackhole Bridger of Axiom Curb Flux News. And thanks ever so much for you lads coming on. That does conclude our live broadcast. And just remember, there's two phrases we're living by now at Unity Peace Patrol News, which is the power of the people is stronger than the people in power, and no one rules if no one obeys.
Peace.
Peace and love and unity to everybody around us. And thanks ever so much, Michael and Blackhole, for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
No worries. But thanks everybody for listening. Also, our lovelies at GCHQ, even though you were probably listening in, probably pissing yourselves at us calling the BBC British Brainwashing Corporation. Sorry, I'm having a bit of a brain fart tonight, lads. Well, thanks ever so much, guys, and take care, and remember, there's always help wherever you need it.